Welcome to another deep dive with us. This time we're looking at, well, it's called Good Soldier of Jesus Christ. It's a sermon manuscript
Got you.
based on Timothy 2.3 to 4.
Right.
But it adds this really interesting layer to it
Oh,
because it was actually written by the Apostle Paul
okay.
while he was imprisoned in Rome.
Wow. So like
Yeah,
facing his own mortality
exactly.
while writing this encouragement to Timothy to like prepare for hardship and all that.
To remain steadfast in his faith even when things are tough.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It is, and we're going to kind of unpack how this sermon
Hey.
paints a picture of what it means to be a Christian,
Nah.
especially in the face of persecution. I
Okay.
actually got to visit a site connected to Paul in Rome,
Oh, really?
the Church of the Three Fountains.
Interesting.
We'll come back to that a little later.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
But
But for now.
yeah, for now, let's start with the sermon's main point,
Okay.
which is hardship. As being part of the Christian experience.
It's pretty direct
Yeah,
of
they'll
saying
follow.
that persecution is something Christians should expect.
Oh, yeah,
Devout Christians especially.
that's right. And it even pulls in 2 Timothy 3.12.
Okay.
Which says that everyone who wants to live a godly life in
Huh.
Christ Jesus will be persecuted.
Will be, not might be.
Not might be, will be. Yeah, that's a bold statement.
It is. It is.
And to illustrate that,
Okay.
the sermon brings in an example from Revelation.
Okay.
The church in Smyrna,
Right.
they were facing some really intense persecution,
Yeah.
but they were promised a crown of life
Wow.
for
Right,
those
so
who remained faithful.
powerful imagery.
It is. It makes you think about what we value
Yeah.
and what we're willing to sacrifice for.
For sure.
Speaking of sacrifice,
Okay.
the sermon brings up this modern example.
Oh, okay.
The Pyeongtaek Hanavision Church
Mm.
in South Korea.
Okay.
And it's a church mostly attended by North Korean defectors.
Wow. So they're
They're bringing all of those stories
That
of
was-
persecution with them.
yes, and the risks that they took to escape
Hmm.
a regime that actively persecutes Christians.
Really emphasizes that concept of faith under duress.
It does.
Yeah.
And within that church, there's this one story
Okay.
that really stood out to me
Oh, tell me.
about a deaconess
Okay.
who was repatriated back to North Korea
Oh, wow.
3 times.
3 times.
3 times.
She went back.
She suffered through unimaginable hardship,
Yeah.
but her faith never wavered.
That's just incredible to me.
It is.
That resilience.
Right.
That strength.
Would we have that same strength?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what it is
Yeah.
about her that allowed her to.
It's more than just enduring suffering.
Right.
It's about finding strength and joy.
Yeah, finding forgiveness
And forgiveness even in the midst of those trials.
really makes you reconsider what resilience is.
It does. And then the sermon goes on to present this analogy.
Comparing Christians to soldiers.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's relevant
Yeah.
in light of all these stories because just like soldiers prepare for battle,
Okay.
even when things are peaceful,
Right.
Christians are called to be ready for spiritual warfare.
Yeah, even when things seem calm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thanks.
It pulls from 2 Timothy 2.3 to 4,
Okay.
where Paul tells Timothy to endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And then it goes on to talk about the dedication,
Yeah.
preparedness that soldiers embody. Like
Okay.
they're constantly training, always ready to be deployed.
Even when they're off base
Yeah.
with their families and stuff.
Living their normal lives.
Right. But they never lose sight of that duty.
Exactly. And the sermon takes it a step further.
Okay. How's that?
It applies that soldier mentality to every aspect of a Christian's life.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like whether you're at work
Okay.
or spending time with family
Just relaxing.
or just relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
There's this
Underlying awareness.
underlying awareness of your duty to God.
So it's always there.
It is, and it kind of makes you wonder, are we prioritizing God's will in all parts of our lives?
In everything we do.
Are we living with that sense of purpose?
Even in the mundane things.
Yeah, and speaking of interesting things,
Oh, is this the...
this is that site I mentioned, the
Yeah.
Church of the Three Fountains in Rome.
Okay, tell me about it.
It's believed to be the very place where Paul was imprisoned and
Oh.
executed.
So he was likely there
Yeah.
when he wrote this.
Yeah, like his final act
Preparing his protege.
to prepare his protege for the battles ahead.
Wow.
And inside, I saw this stone pillar,
Okay.
and it was marked with all these deep grooves.
And these were from...
They believe from the executioner's sword.
Wow, that's a
It's this tangible connection to
Yeah.
that moment,
visceral connection.
to Paul's unwavering faith, even facing death.
It makes you think about the cost of discipleship.
It does.
It's one thing to talk about hardship,
Right.
but to actually see that evidence.
That reminder of the sacrifice.
It must have really hit home.
It did, and the story doesn't end there.
Oh.
It said that after Paul died, 100,000 Roman soldiers
100,000.
who had converted to Christianity were also martyred there.
At that same spot?
That same spot.
Wow, what strikes me is they weren't forced.
No.
They chose this knowing the consequences.
It makes you wonder what compels someone to make that choice.
Yeah, to embrace a faith that might cost them their lives.
If a belief system can inspire that level of devotion, there must be something incredibly powerful at its core.
You would think so.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how their faith sustained them.
Yeah.
How they found strength and hope.
In such awful circumstances.
Yeah, that's a question I think we should explore further.
Okay.
As we unpack this whole soldier analogy,
I'm ready.
those Roman soldiers choosing martyrdom
Yeah.
rather than abandoning their faith.
It really highlights that
This wasn't theoretical.
Yeah.
For them, this was like
this was real life.
their lived experience.
And it points to that,
Yeah.
core idea in the sermon that discipleship requires sacrifice.
It's not just about believing stuff.
It's about living it out
Yeah, even when it's hard.
when it demands something of you.
It's not about comfort.
Right.
The sermon is like, look, this path might be difficult, but the reward is worth it.
Yeah, and that reward is the
That crown of life,
crown of life, yeah.
promised to those who persevere.
But it's interesting, though.
What's up?
It doesn't present this hardship as just something you passively endure.
Right.
It calls for an active response,
Okay.
like a fighting spirit.
Almost like a soldier.
Exactly, a soldier on the battlefield.
It's not about just being a doormat.
Right.
It's about standing firm in your convictions,
Fighting for what you believe in.
even when it's hard.
Yeah, but how do we reconcile that with the message of love
Right.
and forgiveness? That's also so central.
It's like, where's
Where's the line?
Where's that line?
Yeah.
I think that's where discernment comes in.
Okay, I see that.
Like the sermon emphasizes fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
So that means we need wisdom
To choose our battles.
to choose our battles.
And to know how to fight them.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes the bravest thing
Is it-
is to turn the other cheek
Yeah.
or to meet hatred with love.
Right, so it's about applying that soldier mentality,
Yeah, but with wisdom
but with wisdom, yeah.
to everyday life.
To everyday life, being focused and disciplined,
Right.
but also being wise and discerning.
Yeah, it's about living intentionally,
Okay.
recognizing that every choice we make, every action we take has spiritual significance
It's about embodying that soldier of Christ
in everything.
in every single thing we do.
And that doesn't have to be
Yeah,
somber or joyless,
it doesn't, no.
like the deaconess.
She's a great example,
Yeah, even in prison,
facing torture
still held on to hope,
and joy. Yeah, it's about aligning your life with God's will,
which leads to peace.
peace and purpose.
And that's where I think the sermon is powerful.
Yeah,
It's not just rules or restrictions
it's about finding freedom.
and fulfillment in something bigger than ourselves.
It's interesting, right?
That's the
How those two things, discipline and freedom,
can coexist.
can coexist in this framework.
It's like a paradox.
It is a paradox, and I
Yeah.
think that's something every Christian kind of
Wrestles with.
wrestles with. Yeah, that tension
Yeah.
between surrender and choice.
Right. Surrendering to God's will, but also actively choosing to follow it.
And in that tension, I think
Yeah.
that's where we find our strength
And our purpose.
and our purpose. Exactly.
That brings us back to the deaconess. I mean, imagine
I can't even imagine.
facing that hardship.
Imprisoned, tortured
Maybe,
multiple times.
It would be understandable if she'd given up,
Yeah.
but she didn't,
It's a testament to the power of faith,
to sustain us.
to sustain us through anything.
But it also makes you ask,
What was it about her faith?
yeah, what gave her that strength?
That resilience, that hope,
Was it simply that she believed?
and a reward in the afterlife.
Or was it something more?
Something that gave her peace, even while she was suffering.
That's the question that really sticks with me.
Yeah, what is it about the Christian faith
Mm.
that enables people to embrace that sacrifice?
Right. We've talked about the crown of life.
Right.
But is that all there is?
It makes me think about the different ways
Okay.
people understand faith.
Mm-hmm.
For some, it's about a relationship with God.
Yeah, like a source of strength in their daily life,
For others, it's about community.
working together to make the world better.
And for some, it's both.
Yeah, it's a combination.
The sermon doesn't give us one answer.
No.
but it challenges us to examine our own beliefs.
To ask ourselves what motivates us.
What gives us hope and purpose?
In the midst of life's challenges, and I think that's a key takeaway from this whole deep dive. It's not just about understanding this stuff.
It's about applying it.
Applying it to our own lives.
Letting it shape our choices.
It's about moving beyond just agreeing with it.
To actually doing something.
Embodying these principles.
In our actions, our relationships.
Yeah, it's about asking ourselves.
What does it mean for me to be a good soldier of Jesus Christ?
Today, in my own life,
Yeah.
what qualities should we be cultivating?
What kind of spiritual armor do we need?
Let's dig into those questions as we continue. So we've been talking about this whole idea of being a good soldier of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what specific qualities come to mind for you?
When you think about that analogy.
Yeah, like what does a good soldier look like?
Okay, well, I think discipline, definitely.
Okay.
A good soldier's discipline in their training,
Right.
in how they conduct themselves, and in their obedience to orders.
Okay, so that same discipline is essential for Christians.
I think so, yeah. It's about self-control, resisting temptation.
And like staying focused on the mission.
Exactly, making those tough choices.
Even when you'd rather take the easy road.
It's about denying yourself, taking up your cross, like Jesus said.
Right, but it's not about self-punishment.
No, it's about aligning yourself with God's will.
Which leads to freedom.
And fulfillment, yeah.
Okay, that makes me think about obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Like a good soldier obeys orders.
Without question.
Without question.
Trusting that their commander knows best.
So that means
trusting God.
Trusting God's plan even when we don't get it.
Even when it's hard, yeah.
And that requires a lot of humility.
It does. It's admitting we don't have all the answers.
And that we need to submit to something bigger.
Yeah, letting go of the ego.
Letting go of control.
And those qualities, you know.
Like discipline, obedience, humility.
They're not always popular these days.
No, we like to be independent.
We value self-reliance.
Questioning authority.
But the sermon's saying
true strength comes from surrendering
to something bigger.
Yeah, it's radical.
It is a radical concept.
It really is, but it's at the heart of this.
It's the core of Christianity.
That we find ourselves, our purpose.
Not in chasing our own desires.
But in following God's will.
Yeah, and that alignment.
It doesn't just happen.
It's a process.
The journey.
It takes work.
It's like a soldier training every day.
Honing those skills, getting ready for battle.
Yeah, it's lifelong.
It is.
And just like a soldier needs armor.
To protect them.
The sermon gives us spiritual armor.
Oh, I like that.
Paul talks about the belt of truth.
Okay.
The breastplate of righteousness. The shield of faith.
The helmet of salvation.
These are the things that help us stand firm.
Against all those attacks.
Internal and external.
It's not just about being a good person.
Right. It's not just about following rules.
It's about this spiritual battle.
Yeah. Fighting for what you believe in.
Protecting yourself.
From those forces that want to lead us astray.
It's a powerful image.
It is. It reminds us that this life, it's not always easy.
There will be challenges.
There will be times we want to give up.
But like a good soldier,
we have to press on.
Knowing that we're going to win in the end.
Knowing we're not alone in this.
We have God on our side.
And we have each other.
Yeah, all those stories we talked about.
From the martyrs.
To the deaconess in North Korea.
Remind us that we're part of something bigger.
A long line of faithful warriors.
We can draw strength from their example.
And encouragement.
And hope in the promise.
That the victory's already won.
Our role is to fight alongside him.
To be faithful soldiers.
Knowing that he's leading us to victory.
Yeah, that's powerful.
So as we wrap up this deep dive
into good soldier of Jesus Christ,
I hope you're left with more than just an understanding of this analogy.
I hope so.
But also a renewed sense of purpose.
And courage.
To face the challenges in your own life.
Remember, you're not alone.
You have the tools.
And you have people cheering you on.
So go forward.
With courage and hope.
And commit.
The commitment of a good soldier of Jesus Christ.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
Keep fighting the good fight.